breaking uranium news. My video last week was titled, Are Uranium Stocks Due for a Bounce? The answer to that was yes. URNM, Sprott Mining ETF, was up 5.75% on the week. Compared to the broader market, S&P 500 up 3.22%. We know that uranium stocks are currently correlated to the broader market. Good to see that when the broader market finally recovers, uranium stocks will outperform the rest of the market for good reason. Let's dive into the news and what is moving the uranium market. First, here's a fresh look at the supply crunch. This is the most important chart to pay attention to as a uranium investor. This was updated June 2022 by worldnuclear.org, and you can just see that we are currently in a severe supply crunch. Black is the world requirement of uranium, and you can see the massive gap between world requirements and supply. And you can also see where a lot of this is coming from. The following graph gives a historical perspective showing how early production went first into military inventories and then in the early 1980s into civil stockpiles. It is this early production which has made up the shortfall in supply from mines since the mid-1980s. However, the shortfall is diminishing towards the level of continuing secondary supplies. So secondary supplies are diminishing. The supply crunch is getting worse. We know right now prices have to rise to incentivize production to meet the future demand. So let's figure out, where is this demand coming from? Elon Musk explains why he is pro-nuclear energy. I'm actually pro-nuclear as well. I think nuclear has a bad rap. People shouldn't be shutting down nuclear power stations, in my view, unless they're in a location that's prone to natural disasters, in which case, you can't just be like, we're just waiting for a real but once in a century situation. He knows how unlikely a nuclear disaster is. Like Fukushima situation, well, there's a lot of tsunamis and stuff. So it's probably not great to have nuclear where there's natural disasters. But for example, in like France or Germany and many parts of the US, there's really no meaningful risk of a natural disaster that could affect nuclear power plants. So we shouldn't shut them down in that case. Elon Musk is on board. Now, here is the biggest news of the week. EU Parliament accepts nuclear as sustainable clean energy. They voted, they've accepted it, which will allow new EU reactor projects to apply for 350 billion euros a year of low-cost green financing, opening floodgates for reactor builds and uranium stocks into ESG funds. Please pay attention to that word. Floodgates. This opens the floodgates of investment into reactor builds and uranium stocks. EU lawmakers remove last hurdle for gas and nuclear as green. This is the last hurdle has been removed. That's why John Quake says floodgates have been opened. Floodgates of capital. You have to follow the money. It all stems from positive regulation, and from positive regulation comes all that money from big institutions because they have regulatory clarity and the green light. And so we have contagion because of this announcement. Everything is connected. Why is Taiwan's industrialists finally loud about nuclear now after staying mum in the last year's referendum? Because Korea embraced nuclear and EU said it's green. Success anywhere is progress everywhere. Best news cycle for nuclear in many a moon for Taiwan on the backs of rising power prices and EU's inclusion of nuclear into the taxonomy. Now you have the Minister of Economic Affairs saying there are two main obstacles to nuclear rather than dismissing. So you have this reawakening. Early stage investors are positioning for it. The good news is just getting started as the dominoes fall around the world in the nuclear renaissance that is unfolding. Singapore greenlights nuclear power in low carbon energy import proposals. Atomic energy, along with coal, were banned in an earlier round of applications. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines are among Southeast Asian countries exploring the power source in their future energy plans. I keep saying it, the future will run on nuclear. South Korea aims for nuclear power to make up more than 30% of its power mix by 2030, according to new target. Atomic energy provided 27.4% last year. So they want to increase their share of nuclear power. Korea plans to build 4 more nuclear reactors by 2030 and extend the life of 10 older units. Remember, we're in a supply crunch. Where is all this supply going to come from? From higher prices. Don't forget the world's biggest economy, the US. This comes out on July 5th. Action from the US Supreme Court last week has sent shockwaves through the US green energy markets, while utilities are now even more urgently seeking secure supply. U.S. government begins to build strategic uranium reserve. Last week, the U.S. Department of Energy issued requests for proposals for the sale of up to 1 million uranium pounds for the purpose of the government's intention to build a strategic uranium reserve. This is so big. Individual awards will range from 100K to 50K pounds and must come only from U.S. domestic producers. Talked about this already, but it is just so big to ignore, not bring up again. Well, that's good news for U.S. producers. It comes at a time when utilities across the globe are urgently trying to secure their own uranium supplies as the fallout from Russia's invasion continues. So we have supply chain issues. We have the ongoing war. We know Russia doesn't want to stop anytime soon. Russia reinforcing troops in Ukraine in preparation to beef up operations, July 9th. They're not stopping anytime soon. Anyone who's thinking these supply chain issues are just going to go away is absolutely incorrect, unfortunately, at this time. Putin warns sanctions risk energy price spike catastrophe. Russia president says Western calls to reduce reliance on Russian energy have made global markets spike in oil and gas. We know everything is connected. We know that the world is turning to uranium as fast as possible in light of this. Electricity in Germany will become a luxury good in 2023. This is German power baseload. Germany is famous for trying to move away from nuclear. Unfortunately, that is failing for them. Here's the benchmark European gas futures about to hit an all-time high in white compared to US. You can just see there's an energy crisis going on. France realizes how important nuclear is. France, hoping to weather energy crisis, will renationalize electricity giant. The state already has a majority stake in France's main electricity and nuclear company. The move reflected the president's desire to champion economic and energy sovereignty. The energy transition requires nuclear power. Though France gets about 70% of electricity from nuclear power, a bigger share than any other country in the world, the government must ensure its energy sovereignty by holding 100% of the capital in the company. Electricity to France, or EDF, she said, up from 84%. The government of France understands how important this is. So important that they have to own 100% of the company. They're obviously investing hugely in nuclear, wisely. Germany, not so much. And they are dealing with a massive crisis. We've talked about that. It is very unfortunate for them. So we've talked about the bullish supply demand fundamentals. We've talked about the global supply chain crisis. We've talked about favorable politics and the wall of money coming into uranium. All of this is happening at a time of great technological innovation, which is going to proliferate this revolutionary fuel source around the globe and into the future. Emerging small nuclear reactors may significantly contribute to grid decarbonization by 2050. Small domestic advanced nuclear reactors could play a major role in decarbonizing electricity in the US by providing carbon-free electricity, balancing out solar and wind resources, and being installed at shuttered coal and other fossil plants. So small modular reactor technology is going to spread everywhere as people realize that you can get dense energy for practically nothing, obviously at higher uranium prices than today. And that's what we're waiting on, for the supply demand gap to fill, for the price to rise, and allow this global proliferation of nuclear energy to unfold over the next few decades. The gloved hand holds life-size models of nuclear fuel pellets with their injection rod. Each pellet can produce the same energy as 3 tons of coal. So this handful equals 60 tons of coal, or 28,000 meters cubed of gas, or 34,000 liters of oil. This handful. This is the revolution taking place in nuclear power. It's absolutely incredible where the whole world is going with this new technology, which is going to enable the world and the universe to run on nuclear. And just an update for which assets are some of the highest quality right now. We have this from John Quakes. Of the hundreds of mineral exploration drill campaigns being undertaken globally for all mined metals, Fission continues to top the list of best drill result intercepts in 2022, with other uranium mining grades Denison in third and ISO Energy in Fifth, these three assets have massive uranium deposits in the ground. We will stay on top of the global nuclear renaissance and continue to cover it every step of the way.